I'm grinding, I'm trying to get millions. Stack it all up, let it powder the ceiling. Stack it all up, let it pop for my children. Try to take that and I swear that I kill you. I do this shit, yeah, my life like a movie. Braid on your head, get your hit like the movies. Glock with the switch, that bitch shoot like a Uzi. Brain out your head, shit be leaking and oozing. I'm CEO, yeah, I'm big on no Gucci. I just three up that road for some dude shit. Came on and ran the bands up like I'm Boosie. I'm still on 6 year parole, so I'm cool. And POB all on my dick like a groupie. All of my shooters retarded, no drooling. 100 round clips, big old guns go through. Get pop a perk 30, don't feel like I'm moving. Riding that farmer, just me hating ooh shit. Only the family, cause niggas be goofies. Talking that shit, but they straight attitude. They leave nigga bitches straight dick in the booty. I know some niggas be itching to shoot it. Run up and put about 6 in his coupe. To kill him and leave him right on chopper tools. I'm trying to blow, get that million like food.
Joe set him on fire. Shotgun Joe meet him on the mountain. And Joe meet him on the mountain. Shotgun Joe drink from no fountain. Shotgun Joe's papa. Shotgun Joe's pie. Got it ready. Shotgun Joe's papa. Shotgun Joe's pie. Getting ready.
Victor Harris, a.k.a. Big Chief Victor Harris of the Mandingo Warriors, the spirit of Fire, has been masking for 57 years. Despite its name, Mardi Gras Indian, the Indian tribes of New Orleans are strictly an African-American tradition, aka carnival, dating back to when the indigenous people would hide our people during slavery. Older generations, like my grandparents and great-grandparents, don't recognize Mardi Gras. The event to them is always referred to as carnival, dating back to when blacks were banned from the tradition of Mardi Gras. The tribes of New Orleans are in fact the oldest cultural organizations surviving from the original African tribes which were brought on into New Orleans. The tribes are particularly noted for preserving African dress art and musical heritage in the New World. The sewing and beadwork incorporated into Indian suits are all done by hand. Thriving in the trenches of New Orleans, Indian tribes pursue cultural traditions rooted in what is an historical past. Indian tribes are known for their fabulous costumes and headdressing. It was the African drumming traditions of Indian tribes that combined with the brass marching bands traditions in New Orleans what led to the development of brass bands. In 1970, several Indian tribes performed at the first annual New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival, then held in Congo Square, what we now know today as Louis Armstrong Park. This will spark interest for Indian tribes to perform at major folk and musical festivals and musical clubs all over the United States. This story takes place on the crushing fields, the CP3 Callio projects. Gerald Elwood, aka Nap, will be given the nickname Nap by his family. Born in New Orleans, Louisiana, Nap will be raised by his mom in the Callio project. Like the old saying goes, it takes a village to raise a child. Nap and his older sister will grow up with many family members around them. The Callio, which is comprised of the old side, new side, front of town, back of town, would mold and shape Nap as he was coming up. Known for being home of that dog food, people will flock in from all parts of the city to cop out the yo. That 11.5 will be different than any other vice. With Nap's customer base being the users of dog food, Nap would have to be just as aggressive, if not more aggressive, than they were. At the time, the length of time given to 11.5 pushers would be the same as if you had crushed someone. It is this that would shape the attitudes of the pushers. Nap would gain his hunger to hustle and his no-nonsense attitude, all coming up in the Callio projects. At the age of 13, Nap would experience his first woman. Not long after that, he would grab his first tool. Being able to differentiate his emotions from intelligence will be another skill that Nap would learn coming up in the CP3. Courage, self-respect, and respect for others will be huge coming up in the yo. In Nap's teenage year, Al Broadnet will be the man in the yo. During the time, T's and B's, a synthetic form of dog food, will be the thing. It wouldn't be long before Sam Lee Clay, aka Sam Scully, will be released from Angola. Turbo will put Nap in the game with Scully. Being from the Jackson Avenue area across the street from the Callio, Scully will earn his hood pass from Turbo. Turbo and Scully will be tighter than pliers. Turbo, whom was highly respected throughout the city, will be born and raised in the Yo. Being wise behind his years, Turbo will put together what was known as the A-Team. Scully would have a plug. That plug would be L Broadneck. With L as his plug, Scully will rise to dominance from the late 70s to the early 80s. In 1983, L will be found deleted in his Aid Ward home. The deletion of L will create distinction between Turbo, Scully, and the A-Team. The A-Team, who would suspect that Scully was behind L being crushed, no longer wanted to rock with Scully. Turbo, who was friends with Scully, would initially stick around. Ultimately, the A-Team would make an agreement to steal cop from Scully, but do their own thing. Scully, who wasn't happy about this, would agree, but would then start to step on the product. Fed up with the games, Turbo and the A-Team would ban Scully from the Yo. No longer having a team, Scully would be hit up in 1984, but would not be deleted. In 1986, Scully would be hit up again and still not be deleted. Sam Scully, aka Sam Scully, will ultimately end up being crushed in 1987. Let's fast forward to 1989. Knapp himself would be hit up. Knapp would survive being hit up and ultimately heal from his injuries. The year is 1991. As part of an ongoing investigation, St. John's Parish Sheriff's deputies will conduct a surveillance of a Holiday Inn in La Place, Louisiana, that was being utilized by Knapp, Will, Rudy, and Ernest. The men will be pulled over and caught with the work. A search of the hotel room will produce more incriminating evidence. Knapp will be sentenced to 121 consecutive month terms of imprisonment on counts 1 and 2, and consecutive 60-month terms on the weapon charge. In August of 1992, while in custody serving his 13-year bid, Knapp would again be indicted for his involvement with the Metz organization. Knapp would be found guilty and is now serving 3 consecutive life sentences concurrently, plus 30 years in the federal prison system.
Hit my shooter, told him knock his head off. Leave him on the block. Yes, fuck the ops. Riding with the mob. Walk up in my pop. 30 in the Glock. That's about 100 shots. I get it out the mud, or I get it in blood. Yeah, I'm the blood. Show love like Bug. Trying to get my family and my niggas out the hood. Pedal to the metal, roller op up in the wood. Gang shit. I be on it like I'm sure. Smoking on that Manny Pacquiao, that be that good.